Happy Friday, everyone, and welcome to the latest edition of What's on Your Mind. Today, we're going to talk with five incredible people who mean the world to me based on the work that they do and what they bring to the table. And we're going to find out from each one of them what's on their mind today. I'll tell you what's on my mind today, and that's customer service or the lack thereof. I have been in computer hell since 8:30 this morning. My emails were not coming in. I was sending emails out. Some people said they got them. Some people didn't get them. Luckily, each one of my guests got it. The company that I use, I'm not going to mention any names, but the company that I use, that's my server, they don't have any phone service. And when so many people in this country right now are being laid off, fired, gotten rid of, why can't we bring these people to all these companies, have them answer the phone, and deal with our issues one-on-one? Because I do believe that if you've got a person on the other end who knows what they're doing, we can get to the root of our issues rather than endless emails. There must be at least 100 emails that have gone back and forth between my server company and myself today. I still don't know if it was the server or if it's Gmail, which is the server that I use, or what the issue is. But enough of that. I want to celebrate five incredible people. And I'm going to begin by bringing on a dear friend of mine that I have not seen in a long, long time. And I was thrilled when she said yes to being here today. She's in Las Vegas, and it's Barbara Brighton. And Barbara is
Hi,
an
Richard.
incredible entertainer. She's a great impressionist. She's so wonderful at what she does. And I'm so thrilled that she said yes to being here today. So, Barbara, how are you?
I'm good. I'm happy I could touch the button and find you because I was watching Mid-Century Modern, the new thing with Nathan Lane and company, and I turned it off just in time. You said come in 10 minutes early, so I kept watching the thing. I'm on the iPhone, and I was I'm just so thrilled to see you, Richard.
It's a thrill to
Honest to
see you too.
honest, I'm so thrilled that you asked me. Good to see you always.
So let me
Always.
ask you,
Yeah.
give us a review. What do you think of the show?
Of your show?
No, of
Oh,
Nathan Lane's show.
you know what? It's I have to say that I worked with Linda Lavin in Milk and Honey
Wow.
years ago for Goober Ford and Gross. I don't know if you remember.
Of
They had the
course I
tents,
do.
yeah. And
They were, well, they had quite a reputation. They were wonderful.
Yeah, it was fun. I did it with Molly Pecan when I first started, sort of, in the biz, and I was so sad to hear about Linda. It was just, So when I watched the show, I'm thinking about the woman doesn't have long, and she's working and she's strong and
We all
funny.
should be so lucky to be
Oh,
working up to the very last minute.
I know, but I get affected. It's very emotional for me if I know somebody's not going to be around. And last year I did Cast Party with Billy Stritch and Jim Caruso, who I love and adore. And Billy was like in love with Linda. So we talked about all that and his loss. So I feel that. I
Mhm.
just, I feel stuff like that, Richard. I
Well,
really
I
do.
do too. I mean,
Yeah.
that makes you an empath. So
Oh,
obviously you feel this. But
yeah.
did you like the show? I have to
I
ask.
did. I liked the show. I thought it was well. I liked all the people with it. Jimmy Burrows, who directed Cheers. I mean, it's the best people in the world. In back of the show, it's time for a laugh, and I thought it was interesting, the sort of similarity to Golden Girls in a
Mhm.
way, but and that's was a huge hit. How could it not be a hit? So did I like it? Absolutely. And would
The
I
only
watch it?
thing
Yeah, I
missing
watched
from
the
that show
first two.
right now is me. I should be
Huh?
on the show.
Well, come on,
I
Richard.
can give Nathan Lane a run for his money.
I would love it. I would love it, darling.
Well, let's talk a little bit about you. You live in
Okay.
Vegas.
Yep.
You're still performing yourself, aren't you?
Yes. I have a show coming up with my friend Suzanne Goulet, who does Liza. And she
Yes.
said hello to Richard.
We love her.
Denise, yes, I know. She's listening, Richard. And
Hi, Suzanne.
Denise Rose, who does Judy. And
And Sherry
I'm,
Ray Parker is here, so I know
oh,
that she's
Sherry's on. Oh, hi. Hey, Sherry.
yes.
Yeah, well,
Sherry and
everybody,
I just appeared together in Palm Springs, so that was
I
a lot of fun.
I heard. I wish you'd bring the show here,
All
Richard.
you need
Honest
to
to God.
do, and
Yeah,
everyone who's watching out there, call your favorite venue and request me. I'll
yeah.
show up anywhere.
Well, this Vegas is. You know how hard it is. You just can't do that. It's like a different world than when I started. And I started in 72 at
Wow.
Caesars, with Harry Belafonte. A different world. That's not like that now. But anyway, before I forget, because Suzanne will kill me, April 10th, we're doing a show at the Alexis Park, which is a nice new hotel. The three of us. I'm doing Joan Rivers. Why would I be doing anything else? They're doing Liza
There's
and Judy.
Suzanne. I see her. She's watching. Hi, Suzanne.
Oh, do you see it really?
Yeah, well, I see
Oh,
the comments. So
oh,
she,
I love it. I love it. Yeah. She's a slave driver, Richard. She's making me sing and dance. She's killing me. This old broad. I haven't done Broadway in 50 years. She's
wow, well,
making me do
it'll work.
this.
That's the good news.
I hope so. If I don't fall off the stage, I'll be very happy. But I'm doing good. I'm thriving. Vegas is different. It's busy and it's definitely showbiz. I'm
Well, let
glad I
me ask you,
moved
I mean,
here.
has Vegas come back the way it was before COVID,
Oh,
or is it
totally,
still
totally.
struggling? Oh, it has come
Oh
back.
my God. Oh yeah. Because I just did a show for the news on the pandemic. Like last week, they interviewed me on the retrospective because it was like 5 years. And I had to go back and remember we drove up the strip totally black. It was eerie. It's so eerie because this is a town where there's neon 24/7, and it was very scary. And for a year and a half, what could you do? We didn't like it. Yes, it's come back. People are working. They're rebooked. Uh, I think, and I hope we never see a pandemic again, ever, ever,
From
ever.
your mouth to God's ears.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean,
But
I mean, there were good things that came out of the pandemic. I mean,
what?
well, I'll give you a couple. First of
Okay.
all, because of Zoom and so many things, people found different ways of presenting their art. People came together in ways that I don't think that we had been coming together in
Mm,
years.
mm,
Yes, it was virtual, but at least it was
yeah.
there. I mean, can you imagine if, God forbid, we had had a pandemic 25, 30 years ago when the technology was not in place? It's funny because my husband and I, we've been together 35 years,
God bless.
and the the R word is popping up a lot these days, and that's retirement. So he's thinking of retirement.
Excuse me, Richard. I'm choking. I'm
Well,
choking.
you know that in our profession, we never think about retirement,
No,
but
I know.
he's thinking about it.
Huh?
But we were together 24/7. We adopted a dog just before the pandemic hit. So we were together all this time. And I think it brought us closer together. I
Mm-hmm.
know that for some people, they were going, get me out of this house, get me, but
Yeah,
we
yeah,
could go for walks, which we did, and
yeah. But
separately
you
and
said,
together.
but Richard, you had each other. When you're alone, you don't have anything but that TV and the four walls, and it is isolating
Yes.
at
Well,
best.
Barbara, I'm going to say one thing. Right now, you and I are not alone because there are four people waiting to come on. So you're going to pull a number
Yeah.
one, two, three, or
Okay.
four, and
Okay.
I will bring the next person on.
Okay. Three.
And that's my dear friend, Kevin Winkler.
Oh.
Hi,
Hi,
There you are.
Kevin.
Richard. Hi,
So, Kevin,
Barbara.
Hi,
center yourself
sweetheart.
just a little bit so that
Okay.
we
Well,
can
let's say.
there you
Oh, here
are.
we go. There we go. There we
Perfect.
go.
Where does Kevin live, Richard?
In Florida.
I'm in Fort
Oh, that's
Lauderdale.
where I'm from, Kevin.
Are you really?
Yeah,
Where?
I had a condo in Aventura for 14
Oh,
years.
yeah, sure.
What part are you from, love?
Well, I'm in Fort Lauderdale.
Okay,
I'm
I
a,
lived
I'm
in
a,
Winmore. I lived in Winmore. I lived all over.
you lived in Winmore?
Yeah,
Oh,
Winmore.
my in-laws
Uh-huh.
moved to Winmore
Oh,
back in the late 80s. and we
Uh-huh.
started coming down to visit them. And then we bought a place down here about 5 years ago,
Where?
and
Where you are now?
where we are now in Fort
Okay.
Lauderdale. And we came down, speaking of the pandemic, we came down in December of 2019 to spend what we thought would be 3 or 4 months,
Uh-huh.
and then go back to, we're from New York. We lived in New York for, well, all of our adult lives. And of course, the world turned upside down with the pandemic. So we ended up staying in Florida for a year and a half. I forgot what our apartment in New York even looked like.
Yeah.
So now that things are sort of back to normal, we spend 6 months here and then 6 months.
Oh,
in New
so
York.
you're snowbirds.
So we're snowbird. I haven't quite embraced that term yet. It makes me think of early bird specials and all that.
Well, you're living in the right place for that.
I know. Tell me. Yeah.
Well, Kevin, let me tell everybody a little bit about, who you are. And I mean, I think it was Tommy Tune that initially brought us together. Because I brought you on the show to talk about your book on Tommy Tune. And then your follow-up book to that was your book on Bette Midler.
Yes.
Again, I brought you back. And even though I'm not doing that type of a show now, I'm thrilled that you're here. But, as a writer, was this time frame, and I know excluding all the negatives that go around what we went through, but was it good for you as a writer to have this concentrated time?
It really was, actually. And I didn't think about it. When things happen, you just go with it. But in retrospect, it was a valuable period of time. I was working on the Tommy Tune book.
Mm-hmm.
And I did literally half of it before the pandemic, and the second half of it during the pandemic. And one of the big changes that I had to deal with was interviewing Tommy for the book. Mm-hmm. I had done a number of interviews with him in person in New York before I came down to Florida and before the pandemic. And then afterwards, all of our interviews were on the phone. So,
can I ask a question, Richard?
Sure.
Okay. Why did you select Tommy Tune to write about?
Because I think because I've admired his work as an artist, as a performer, as a choreographer, as a director. And I felt that he was someone who had become somewhat neglected, kind of a neglected figure. People don't tend to talk much about him. Whenever I would pick up a book about the great director choreographers of Broadway, they always mentioned the same people. They'd mention Jerome Robbins and Bob Fosse and Michael Bennett and Gower Champion.
Michael Kidd.
Who?
Michael Kidd.
Michael Kidd, sure.
Mm-hmm.
But they never mentioned Tommy. And I really
I want to say something, Kevin, if you don't mind me interrupting for a moment. Those who know me and follow me, I always talk about celebrating a person and an artist body of worth. And that's what that book is, because you celebrate the work and and all that came into that. So, and by the way, everyone, Tommy Tune, Kevin Winkler, incredible book. And I do want to say also that Sherry Parker, who is here, there it is. Sherry Parker, who's watching, is the foremost Bette Midler tribute artist.
Really?
Yeah. She's wonderful.
Oh, wow.
So you two should connect.
Yeah, we'll have to. Yes, Sherry. Happy to cyber meet you.
Yes. And then Bette Midler. I mean, what I loved about the Bette Midler book, there it is similar somewhat to but it was all your thoughts on her body of worth. Yeah. Through your eyes.
Yeah. The subtitle for the book is An Opinionated Guide. Mm-hmm. And it really was my opinion, my highly opinionated observations on her career as a multi-platform artist who's had a career that spanned now, it's, 60 plus years now. And again, someone who certainly she's a huge star and everybody knows who she is, but she's had a multifaceted career and not everybody remembers or knows all of the really interesting things she did, including writing a children's book. And hopefully before we end today, I can talk a little bit about her children's book. But that was part of the impetus for writing the book. I really wanted to dig deep into her career. And
Kevin, I started out with Bet when she started at the improvisation, and before she did Fiddler on the Roof. It's really funny. People start out as nothing, and they get really blessed and lucky, become major stars. And
you are 6 degrees of everybody. You've got Bette Midler, Linda
That's because
Lavin.
I'm old, Kevin. That's because I'm old, honey. Trust me. Richard knows.
On Tuesday night, I did an event for the Dutch Street Club here in New York. Have you done anything with him, Kevin?
No, I haven't. They've asked me. Was that through Nancy McGraw?
Nancy McGraw.
Yeah.
So on Tuesday night, I interviewed Julie Hostin and Melissa Errico. And both of them have had these phenomenal careers individually. And I'm always interested with a lot of artists, whether they believe that they've manifested their careers or if they believe that their careers have happened simply by the people that they've met along the way. And Barbara, you've met so many incredible people.
And I
want to say, but let me finish.
Yeah.
But they've met you.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
Well, so what does that mean?
That means that, you're open to, I believe in the time that I've known you, that you were open to everybody.
I love people, Richard, and I admire talent. At this stage of my life, after 60 years, I'm paying it forward. I want to help other people without any regard to myself. I just love talent. And I just last night, I saw Nicholas King. He said to say hello to you, Richard. King. Fantastic performer. Who knew?
Yes. So, Kevin, are you currently working on anything?
I am. To tell you the truth, I'm a little superstitious about talking about things. I'm kind of having some problems with this project. I'll get it together, but I'm.
Can I tell them what it is? For those of you who are watching, it's an unauthorized biography of me.
Oh,
nice.
That's why I'm having trouble with it.
That's why you're having trouble with it. I'm joking.
There's so much to cover.
Yeah,
and he deserves it, Kevin.
It's gonna be that thick.
It's gonna be thick.
Big
My
one.
life with
Part like Barbara Streisand's book. Yeah.
Yes.
But you know how insightful you are, Richard. You are one of the most insightful interviewers I have ever seen. I've seen you in the past do with your other shows and with Val Malati, and you're incredible. It's so insightful.
You are, Richard. Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
So, Kevin, what is your process once you make up your mind that you're going to write about a particular subject? And I'm sure that every time you go to the table, because you also have the definitive book, in my opinion, and in the minds of many people, on Bob Fosse. So when you write a book, he's got it handy too. Yes. All these books are incredible, everyone.
But where are they? I want to read them. I want
to ask you very quickly, and then I want to bring on our next guest. But what's your
process?
Yeah.
It always starts, I'm also a former librarian. So it always starts with research. It always starts with a trip to the library to gather research, to look at old videotapes, film performances. It really starts with the research. And through the research process, things start to sort of solidify, and hopefully I get a sense of the structure that I want to pursue, and then I take it from there. But it always starts, for me anyway, it always starts with research.
Question, Richard, did you ever want to be a performer, Kevin?
Actually, I was a performer. I was a dancer for a number of years.
There you go.
But we got to bring on our next guest, because I want to give everyone equal time here. So, Kevin, door number 1, door number 2, or door number 3?
Door number 1.
and that is Robert O'Hare. And Robert O'Hare, just to let everyone know, incredible cabaret artist here in New York. Who, Robert, I hope you don't mind my saying this. You came to this art form rather late in life. Am I correct?
Yes.
And he has a show. I'm going to bring this up right now. He's going to be performing this Sunday in We Take the Town, the shows of Robert Preston.
Oh.
So
Oh.
I'm going to go.
Wonderful.
I want to go piggyback off of Kevin. So you've done these tribute shows. You're not doing an impersonation, obviously. It's your take on who they are. How did you come about Robert Preston, who I'm a huge fan of? And what was your process in terms of working and creating the show?
Okay, well, I've always been obviously a fan of Robert Preston. In particular, the first time I saw him was when I was 11 years old and watched the Music Man in the matinee.
You may want to get a little closer to your mic.
Oh, okay,
Robert.
is that better?
That's much better.
You know why?
Have it down.
Oh,
How's that?
That's better.
Right? Such a technically, great person, right? You got to bring the thing down to talk into it, I mean, okay. No, I've always been a fan of Preston since I was about 11 years old. And in particular, the first time I saw him, I was at a stage in my life when I was shy, small, not athletic. And I saw the Music Man, and he just seemed effortless. He just came in, took over, and I said, that's what I want to do. That's what I want to be at some point. And so it's taken a long time for me to actually do this particular show, but that was sort of the starting point. I've always been a fan of Preston. And I will tell you, and I did not know, and what we focus on is the shows. We don't really get into the private life. Okay. Mm-hmm. But the one resource that was invaluable to me, and I know you've had her on the show,
Deborah Warren,
was Deborah Warren's book. It was fabulous. I mean, it just had all the shows, all the films, everything. It was and a good picture of his private life, etc. And
he's coming on either next week or the week after. I have to go and look at my notes, but I wanted to have her on today, but it's all scheduling with this show, so it didn't work out today.
But that research, I mean, having a book, I'm sure, Kevin, like your books for the artists you've written about, is an invaluable resource. Sure. It helps you find things that, you may have known this, but not that. Mm-hmm. And certainly it helped me know some of the shows that were flops, that didn't get to the city, didn't get to New York, and yet able to extract some of the material from there. So that's sort of my process. And then I work with my director, Eric Michael Gillette, to try to put this into some sort of a less than amorphous form, if you will, that ties in my own personal views or thoughts about it, and we somehow try to mesh it together in a show that works.
Well, last night I went to see Lucille Carr-Kathishan at Don't Tell Mom.
She's great.
She has a tribute to the Beatles.
Yes.
And I did not want the show to end, but it was her journey also discovering the Beatles when she was a young girl through the past 60 years of her life. And it's a very well structured, put together show if she happens to be watching. But there was a lot of her in the show as well. Is that your take also on the shows of Robert Preston?
Yes. Yeah. Not so much the individual shows so much as some of the songs and the sentiments through them. I mean, for example, you can take a song like Half the Battle from Ben Franklin in Paris, which is all about essentially, getting up when you fall down, being able to get through things. And for me, of course, I had, and Richard, as you know, a spinal cord accident back in 2009. So I walked with a cane and leg braces. So a song like that has a particular meaning for me. We don't hammer it home, but it's there, and that's part of, I think, one of the joys of doing a cabaret show, because you're not singing songs for the most part in the context of the show or the film they came from. So you're pulling them out, and yes, you're probably identifying it with the person that wrote it and their story, but you need to put some of you in there. In other words, otherwise, well, why are you singing that song? What's the point? And that is, I think, part of the thing that I really enjoy about doing a show like this.
Well, obviously, there was a moment, or there had to have been for you, where you said, "Hey, I want to do a show celebrating the shows of Robert Preston." What was that spark that started this for you? And notwithstanding the fact that you've been a lifelong fan of his, but at this particular moment, doing this particular show, what was the spark?
I think in the last few years, some of the shows I've focused on are all artists that interested me very much when I was younger. And actually, Preston was probably the first. I mean, I saw him on screen when I was 11 years old. And I didn't do him first. I did some other artists over the last few years, but that was always in the back of my mind. And it just felt like this is the time to do it. I don't have any specific reason why. It's just, yes, it's always been in the back of my mind. I've always kicked it around, and I've done some other shows. Probably some of the other artists, I may have done some of their I've never actually performed in any of the shows that Preston did. Whereas in some other ones, like when I did a Leslie Bricusse show, I had done Stop the World. I had done The Roar of the Grease Paint, things like that. This one was a little different, but I thought to myself, now, for whatever reason, now is the time. I don't know how else to say it.
Now, as I said earlier, you came to the table a little later than the rest of us on this panel.
Yes.
So, what was it that brought you into the world of cabaret? And what have you learned about yourself since you've started doing cabaret?
Well, as you know, I'm my full-time job is I'm a lawyer. But many years ago, before I did law, I did a lot of theater. Not Broadway, summer stock, things like that. I did one of the soaps, Another World, a few times, and I had a decision to make. Did I want to try to do that, or I ultimately, at that time, I went to be a teacher. I was a teacher, I was the vice principal, and then I became a lawyer. But all through that time, my interest in the theater and in singing has always been there. And I basically didn't do it for 25 years. I mean, the first 25 years I was a lawyer, especially when you're starting out as a young attorney. I was at a big firm in New York City, and it's 24/7. It's craziness. And all those years I kept saying, I'm missing something. Something's missing. Something's not right. And that's when, actually, just before I had my spinal cord accident in 2009, I did my first cabaret show. And as soon as I could after that accident, I came back and I did my second. And
how long was it, after having the accident, before you were able to actually come back and do the work?
I would say, let's see, it was 2009 when I fell. Probably about 2 to 3 years, because it took probably almost a year to actually start to recover, to learn how to walk with leg braces and a cane, and to be able to do the things you normally do, to go back to the office, to do this, to do that. And then maybe another year after that to start to take on, hey, I want to sing again. I want to put together a show again. So I would say 2 to 3 years. It took a while.
I got one last quick question, and we're going to bring our next guest on. But what about your singing? I mean, did this accident affect? Did you have to learn to sing in a different way, or
no? It didn't affect my voice directly. The biggest thing that affects is my breathing, because I can't really stand and sing for a long period of time. I basically, I get to the stage, I sit down, and that's it. It's easy to like me because I never move, you're a lighting
designer's dream.
Oh, it is.
I'm the complete opposite. I always go, I'm your worst nightmare, because for me, it's about the audience. As long as I can see the audience, I'm fine. Robert, you're going to bring our next guest on.
Okay.
So do you number one or do you number two?
I just wanted to relate. If I could relate, I hate to interrupt.
We need to get our next guest on, Barbara.
Oh, okay.
Come back to this.
Number four.
Okay. So, Robert, number one or two?
Number two.
And here he is, Peter. How are you?
Good. Hello, everyone.
Now,
Hi,
Peter
Hi, Peter.
has
Hi.
an incredible career behind the scenes. As a matter of fact, he's written an incredible book that I recommend to everybody called Broadway General Manager. He also has a very interesting book, and I was not able to get the graphic up in time. I hope you've got it. There you are. And it's a dog's life told through the obituaries of these dogs. Am I getting that
Oh, my-
correct?
Wow.
Peter?
Yeah,
That's
it's,
good.
it's a collection of dog obituaries,
Oh.
but it's really a celebration of the lives of 23 real dogs. There, including my own. It started with my own dog. I had no intention of writing a book, and it's really meant to celebrate these dogs. So it's very funny and it's filled with love. Occasionally, it's touching, and you might shed a tear, but it's not at all morose or depressing. It's joyous. The word that has most often been used to describe the book by critics is delightful. So that gives you a sense that it's not.
Well, a word that I'm thinking of is cathartic, because it must have been incredibly cathartic for you to, first of all, get the genesis for this book because of the passing of your dog. I have my own dog in the next room right now, and losing a pet is the most painful experience that any human being with emotion will go through, to me. And it's just incredibly painful to go through. But you found the humor. And these obituaries, were these based on dogs that you knew, or were they through friends that you knew? How did
it sort of grew. It was an interesting process. Originally, my dog, whom I adored, died in my arms. He had to be put down, and as any of you know, that's just the most horrible, traumatic thing. Yes. And I felt the need to write a tribute to him and his kind of eccentric life and his irascible character. So I wrote a tribute which took the form of a very formal obituary in the beginning, and then it kind of gets loopier and loopier as you read. And I posted it on Facebook, basically so my friends who had known him would know that he had passed away. And that was all I intended. I wound up getting this overwhelming response from people who read it, saying, this is the funniest and the most touching and the most heartfelt tribute to a dog I've ever read.
What kind of dog did you have, love?
I had a Scottie, a Scottish Terrier. I'm a big Scottie fanatic.
Yeah.
And so I got this response, you've got to write a whole book of these. And I went like, what? Are you kidding? My dog lived with us for 10 years. I knew him intimately. How can I write about someone else's
intimately
dog?
With a dog? Wait a second.
I came up with all these reasons why I couldn't possibly do this. How could I write about a dog I didn't know? Where am I going to get the stories? How many stories is it going to take? Everyone has to be different. How many variations can I spin? You can say my dog was ball crazy. My dog jumped up and down when I came home. There are certain universals, but they have to be different. And I finally reached a point, which was really interesting for me, where I said, you know what? Give yourself permission to try. Give yourself permission to fail. Write one story or tribute at a time as a dog story comes to you, and see where it takes you. Maybe it'll wind up a book, maybe it won't. Just start on the journey. Go start down the yellow brick road and see where it leads you. And by the time I got to 23 of these, and I had one dog from England and one dog from India, and I had purebreds and I had mutts and I had city dogs and rural dogs and one dog from the 1950s. I thought, I think this is a nice, very sweet little book. It's not War and Peace. I'm not trying to, win literary prizes, but it was the most fun and the most creative endeavor I ever had the opportunity, and it was basically an accident. It was never planned.
Now, your first book, was that also an accident?
My first book wasn't exactly an accident. I reached a point where I recognized I was very unhappy managing Broadway shows as a general manager. It was very stressful. I'd done it a lot. It was the same thing over and over. I was good at it. I knew how to do it. All I had to look forward was doing the same thing over and over and over until one day I dropped in my traces. And the show I was working on Broadway, which was a lovely revival of Love Letters with some wonderful stars, closed early. And I had to move out of my office space and had been looking for a new office unsuccessfully. And suddenly the show closed early. And I said, wait a minute, I'm about to be unemployed. I don't have an imminent project coming up. I'm really unhappy. Why would I sign a long-term lease on a space? What I need to do is take a hiatus and kind of figure things out. So I decided to just take a break. I wasn't clear to me that I was retiring at that point. And that was also very challenging for me because a lot of people very logically said, well, so what are you going to do next?
Right.
And I had to say, I don't know. I'm assuming it will reveal itself to me. And that's not usually the way I navigated through life. So that was a big, wonderful life lesson. Sometimes
that was insightful.
Well,
that it
thank
will
you.
reveal itself to you. That's insightful.
Well,
That's
it was a little
great.
scary to go into a void, but so I reached a point finally where I thought, I love talking about what I do. I love teaching what I do. I'm just not sure I can stand doing it anymore. So I said, why don't I write a book about what I know, what I love? You always hear write about what you know. So it was a relatively easy thing to write. When I thought I'd finished the manuscript and showed it to a publisher, he said, "Oh, I think it's a very promising first draft." And I was shocked. I was shocked because I didn't really know what a first draft was. I just thought, well, I put my pen down, I've written it. Kevin, you can probably relate to that.
Oh yeah. First, second, third, fourth, fifth draft. Oh yeah.
I think it was Sondheim who said 90% of writing is rewriting.
It's rewriting.
And that's very true. And I had a very good publisher, and he said, I would like you to add more stories interspersed with all this substantive information on budgeting and contract negotiating and insurance and maintaining a show. And I said, oh, I didn't know I had permission to do that. I was trying to approach a kind of complicated set of information. He said, no, people want to read that stuff. So I went back and I inserted little sort of boxes of interest to illustrate points. I'm talking about billing at one point, how we resolved a thorny billing issue. And I talk about the famous theatrical poster when Ethel Merman and Jimmy Durante were both in a show, and each of their agents insisted they get top billing. Exactly, Richard. And exactly. So I illustrated it with things like that. And I was desperately trying to find ways to make the book a little sexier, which is not easy when you're writing about general managing a Broadway show.
But it's a very interesting read. It's on my shelf, as you know, and I love the book. I want to ask you before we run out of time, because I do want to bring our next guest, who is waiting so patiently in the wings. Your son, phenomenal artist. From my point of view, it seems like he's never out of work. He went into the performing end of the business. Was there any advice that you offered him going into the business as an artist?
No, it was his love and his passion from like the age of 4. It was something that clearly was coming from him. And my wife's parents were international opera singers who had a very nice life and a very nice career. So she was not a fearful parent that this was a automatic recipe for disaster. And so, we encouraged him in every way we could. And I've had to learn as a parent who's in the business, he now has a very good agent, and I sort of can't offer my advice anymore unless it's asked for. He has other people looking after his interests. So we're leaving on Tuesday. We're flying to London because he just was asked to step into The Devil Wears Prada, which is running in London.
Oh, wow.
And it's a big hit, apparently, starring Vanessa Williams. Who's
yes.
Yeah.
What's your son's name, Peter?
His name is Jamie, and my last name Bogyo, which is a Hungarian name. And this is his third major West End credit in about 3 years.
Yes, it's been amazing. That's why I said it seems like he's never out of work. I do want to bring on our next guest, and then we're gonna do a little round table after we visit with Christine for a moment. Now, as you all know, this is Children's Picture Book Day, and one of my favorite books growing up was How the Grinch Stole Christmas. Now, our next guest, her uncle did not write How the Grinch Stole Christmas, but he put the music to the television special. Albert Haig is Christine Reisner's uncle, and she has a brand new show that's opening on Thursday night called A Toast to Uncle Albert, The Life and Songs of Albert Haig, and it's at Chelsea Table and Stage. Christine, thank you for being so patient. You're here.
I have to take my glasses off because of the glare, so I can't see anybody. I'm blind.
But you look great, and it's good to see you. And so you and I have talked very briefly in passing, but tell us, I know it must have been incredibly incredible to grow up with such, I consider him a genius in terms of what he brought to the table, that you want to keep this legacy going. So how did that spark happen for you?
Well, I first did this show actually 15 years ago with Tex Arnold.
Wow.
And Eric Michael Gillette was the director, and it was just me and Tex and John Burr on bass. But now, 15 years later, it was on the back burner, and I said, a lot of time has passed, and I hadn't done anything in a long time. And I found myself writing because I had majored in writing. That was another aspect of my life at Fordham University. When I was primarily a dancer, as some people know. Actor. That's how I know Kevin from the Dancers Over 40.
Yeah.
That's how I first met you, Richard.
Yes.
Dancers Over 40. So it was on the back burner for a long time. It felt worthwhile. I felt it. Like the Tommy Tune issue that Kevin was talking about, I feel that Albert Haig's been neglected. A lot of people do shows about Cole Porter and Irving Berlin. No one ever did a show about Albert Haig. Yet he won a Tony Award for Redhead. He launched the career of Barbara Cook in Plain and Fancy. And, he wrote some really beautiful music. Unfortunately, those shows flopped on Broadway. The Fig Leaves Are Falling that he did with Alan Sherman had really wonderful songs. I've recorded quite a few of these songs, and they've gotten airplay. Jonathan Schwartz played the ones from Fig Leaves Are Falling years ago when I did those recordings. That was 10 years ago. So I've been promoting, I suppose, this music because it was the music I grew up with.
And what have you learned about yourself? I mean, are there similarities that you've found in yourself that you've learned about your uncle? And I'm sure, how long has it been since he left us?
Yeah, in 2020. So it's been, my Aunt Renee died in 2020, and then he died 6 months later. So,
and he also had this resurgence of a career later in life because of fame.
Exactly right. And that was, as you said to me, I felt like a little boy that had my dream come true. And he scratched his head and he said, "Thing is, I never even dreamed it."
Right, that's right. So what have you learned about yourself in terms of the similarities between you and your uncle?
That's an interesting question. I've never thought that I had similarities, maybe more similarities with my aunt, since she was a singer and on Broadway and everything, Renee Orenhage. But similarities with my uncle, I'm not sure there really were any. I learned so much studying with him. He was the quintessential, one of the first teachers who ever prepared auditions and sort of taught the work of the lyric, So I studied.
Have you thought, we've got Kevin and we've got Peter here, of writing your own book?
Mm.
Your uncle.
Some people have asked me to do it. I don't think I have the courage.
Well,
I started writing a book years ago about my work with the Nikolai Dance Theater. It was called Fully Dressed in My Underwear. But
Great title.
Christine,
that
I would say give yourself permission to try, give
Mm.
yourself permission to fail, and just start.
You know,
Thank you.
writing hasn't really been, besides writing the script for this show, most of my life since the pandemic has been studying music. You know, I study jazz violin at the Kaufman Music School and sing. And because when the pandemic hit, the dance studio closed, and I had been performing with Luigi and teaching substitute teacher at the school, the Luigi Dance School, you know, the jazz center. And then I'd been studying acting with Alice Spivak, and then she got COVID and subsequently passed away of a heart attack.
Oh my.
So my attention was going there. Pandemic came, I found myself home alone with my dog, and I'm a dog person, and my violin, and I was doodling around. And then fate would have it, and this never happened before, that the bridge of my violin exploded and the bridge broke. I found myself down at the shop and checking out with a new bridge. Somebody said, "Oh, where do you play?" You know, because mostly it's classical violinists at the shop who are, you know, in the big, in the Philharmonic or something. And I said, "Oh, no, no, no." I said, "No, I just play jazz. I play along with the Music Choice channel on the television." And they said, "You know, there's a school, the Kaufman Music School, and they have jazz and all kinds of things and adult good players." So I looked online, and sure enough, I signed up for that. And I've been doing that now since the pandemic, going to jazz camp, studying under Ronnie Ben-Hur, who's at Lincoln Center with Sheila Jordan and people like that. So it's been, you know, it's been a new kind of experience.
Well, as I said earlier, I saw Lucille Carr-Kafashan's show last night, and she last did this show 10 years ago. So this is something that she's brought. You mentioned it was 15 years ago. What is different this time around?
Well, this time around, I wanted to, and I am not a soprano. So I joined the Dutch Club, and I met Shana Farr, who's a beautiful soprano voice, and I asked her if she would sing the Barbara Cook songs. And she said, "Oh, not only do I know the songs, I did a tribute to Barbara Cook and actually sang this song with the same musical director, Scott Weber." So then I thought, oh, she'd be so great on the songs that from Fig Leaves Are Falling. You know, I thought she'd be great. And then Craig Rabano, I met him also there, and oh my God, he's like a Richard Kiley. He's perfect, you know. So I wrote this show completely differently, sharing the wealth, if you will, with these wonderful performers. And I got a 4-piece jazz band to really do. So I've never done a big show before like that, where I produced a big show where there were other singers and musicians like that. So this is real different.
Now, I've got a question that I'm going to ask each of you. So excuse me for one moment, if you may, because I have one other guest that's going to join us. Hold on one second. I will be right back.
I hope it's the dog.
I was going to say, right?
Dog.
I know it would be.
Right here.
Yeah.
This is Maddie.
Oh,
There he is.
we can't.
Come here. Come here. Come on.
Oh.
Get in.
She goes everywhere. She goes everywhere with me.
We can't see her.
Come on, Dickens.
Oh, you couldn't see her? Oh.
No.
Here she is.
So
Oh,
here's
that's-
Danny.
There he is. There he is.
This is Danny.
Oh.
Kevin here.
Yes.
Is that
My
a
little baby here.
Cute.
I
Thank
miss
you.
my
And he
Maltese.
knows it too.
Yeah.
So I have a question that I want to ask each of you, and I'm going to start with you, Barbara. And the question was, when was the last time that you experienced something live that really stirred your soul, made you laugh, or connected you to our community? What was it?
Live?
Yes.
I mean, live on stage?
Yes.
I can't think of anything. I could just
I'll throw
relate.
something at you since you can't think.
Well,
Nicholas King last night.
oh yeah. Oh, he was the bomb. Just the bomb for me. For me. Yeah. Oh, that's a really good point, Richard. I wasn't thinking of that because I'm not usually moved that much. But today, listening to everybody's stories, I can relate and feel like I'm back where I started on Broadway,
Mm.
and I just feel like I did Plain and Fancy. I did that show, Christine.
Oh,
Yeah, one of the things, and just everything that everybody said. I wanted to just relate to the gentleman Robert. No, the guy that had the spinal cord
Oh,
accident.
it's me,
Okay,
Bob O'Hare.
I just wanted to take a second to say, in the pandemic, I had a car accident as well. I
Oh.
did, yeah, and I could walk for 2 months,
Mm.
and I had other problems, and I can relate to what you felt because on stage, I still feel it. I don't
Ah.
have the balance.
Mm.
yeah.
Yeah.
And when you've had your life and all of a sudden
Mm.
it changes your security, your emotional
Yeah.
security. You still have the talent, but other things are missing. So
Yes.
I
Yeah.
can relate to what you had to say, and I wanted to share your feeling. That's
Oh,
all.
thank you.
No,
That's
thank
all.
you.
I
Thank you,
loved
Barbara.
hearing everybody's story, Richard. I loved it.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
Thank you for asking me.
Thank you. Kevin.
Let's say, well, just before we came down to Fort Lauderdale, I saw in New York, I saw the revival of Gypsy with
I saw
Audrey
it.
Ah.
and I thought
Oh.
I've seen Gypsy. I don't know how many, 100 times. I've
Mm.
seen it with everybody. I never saw it with Ethel Merman, but I've seen it with everybody else. I said, do I really need to see Gypsy again? Well, once I got sat in that theater and the show started, and she was fabulous. She was, she's a terrific singer, terrific actress. The whole show was wonderful. I got caught up in that gorgeous show one more time, and it was a thrill. I went in thinking, oh, I don't know if I need to see this one more time, but I'm glad I did. And I hope I get a chance to see it again when I get back to New York.
No, it was incredible.
Yeah.
And she's doing the role because I turned it down.
Well, are you doing matinees? Are you doing matinees?
There you go.
No, but it's an incredible production. I loved it.
Yeah.
I was blown away. I'll say very quickly, George C. Wolfe had nuances
Yeah.
that I never thought about before. And of course, we're seeing this new show through the eyes of an African-American woman in the late 20s and early 30s.
Hmm.
So it's a very interesting take.
Different perspectives.
And I highly recommend it if you all get a chance to see it. Robert, same question for you.
I guess the most recent thing I would say is the revival of Sunset Boulevard. Just a stunning take on the whole show. I mean, I saw that with the Glenn Close version in the city years ago, but this was just it just blew you away, really. I mean, basically a bare stage, lots of use of black and white and red, and the mics, using the mics and sort of the cameras moving around the stage. I just thought it was great because it took away all the sort of old-fashioned scenic effects. So you focused even more on the songs and what was going on and the acting. I thought it was a wonderful, wonderful production.
So in your next cabaret show, you can bring the aspects of Sunset Boulevard.
Right. What I'll do is I'll limp outside like they do when he walks down the street and everything like that.
Oh, I know.
Right?
Amazing.
And then 5 hours later, I'll get to the stage, and then you can.
And then you'll call me, and I'll get my walker.
Right.
And
That's
we'll
right.
do a duet.
That's right. We'll rate. Right?
I love it, Peter.
Well, last week I had the chance to see Patti LuPone's solo concert, "Songs from a Hat." And it was really extraordinary. She's so entertaining and dynamic as herself. She wasn't playing a character. She was so relaxed. She said she started the evening by saying, usually when you prepare a concert, you spend a lot of time poring over the songs and you try to come up with a theme and you write all this connective material. Tonight, there'll be none of that. I have a bunch of song titles in a hat, and I'm going to pass it around. And
That's interesting.
this is, very similar to how you started this program, Richard. Literally, she would come to the edge of the stage, and an audience member would, come up with a song, and she was hilarious. Sometimes she'd go like, "Oh shit!" But
I know.
then
I saw
she did,
That sure is different. Wow.
amazing.
and she said, "This is the most fun I ever have performing." So she approached it with a great. Obviously, there were only song titles in the hat of songs she knew well, and she knew the lyrics, and they had worked out the keys. But every performance was going to be different. Every sequence of songs was going to be unique, and she was really extraordinary.
Did she tell the story behind the song?
She often did. But she was so funny. I hadn't realized how funny she was in real life, and so just down to earth and real and spontaneous.
Not a diva.
It was really a fabulous evening.
I love that show. Christine, same question.
Well, lately I haven't been able to go to the theater much because I've been so engrossed in putting this show together. I did see Bob's show, as a matter of fact, the last one, which was very, very enjoyable.
Thank you.
Last week I discovered Maggie Knife because she and I were both taking Michael Kirk Lane's show class. And this is a woman who wrote a memoir that was extremely moving, and her show, I guess, was based on that. But the memoir, this is a wonderful writer about her husband who died of AIDS. And she married him and didn't know if he was gay. And when I talked about previously having courage to write your memoirs, my gosh, I was so impressed by that. So I saw also Goldie DeVere, and I thought she was wonderful. So I've seen a few cabaret shows, but I haven't. After I get done with April 3rd and another music presentation at the Kaufman School, I am going to go to more theater.
Okay.
Well, thank you. I want to thank you all for being here today. I'm going to give each of you a chance to have your final word today. It could be about anything that we spoke about that you want to build upon. It could be something that we didn't bring up that you would like to now have your final word on. Or it could be completely different. It could be whatever you want it to be. And when you finish, you'll go to the next person. And when the last person says goodbye, I will end the show. So you don't have to worry about how do we get out of here. But I want to share with everyone, I have a show that I just debuted at the Selma Gundy Club here in New York called Everything You Always Wanted to Know About Richard Skipper, but were afraid to ask. And the entire show, like Patty, is based on questions from the audience. And I've got the songs in place, but we find a way of tying those songs together with my journey through the people I've gotten the chance to work with, the people that I've known. A lot of you know that I just left social media. It's been, now 2 months, and I am happier for it. And if you're all interested in knowing my story on how that happened, I'll be glad to share with you. I end every show with the same message. And the message is to go out and do something nice for somebody else without expecting anything in return. When you go to your email list, provided that emails are there, go to your email list, and the 8th email that you get, rather than responding with an email, respond with a phone call. And let that person know the impact that they've made on your life. And by doing so, you're going to make an impact on their life. I have a dear friend, Sean Moniger, and he says, we're all in the same storm, but we're in different sized boats. I always say, I don't care what size boat you're on, as long as you have a skipper by your side. I'm going to leave the screen. I'm going to turn it over to you, Peter. And when you finish, you will pick the next person. Go out and see live entertainment, everybody. Thank you all.
Thank you, Richard.
Thank you. Well, I thought this whole discussion was going to be about children's books. And so I just wanted to say, I had trouble remembering a picture book from my own childhood, but I have a favorite book from my son's childhood, who's now in his early 30s. And when he was born and we were reading to him, it really struck me how few books, if any, had a significant, meaningful father figure. The father was like didn't exist. It was like he was a sperm donor, and after that, he was out of the picture. With one exception, I ultimately found a terrific book. You probably can't see it. It's called
Yes.
Bee
and
Mr. Jones.
Okay.
You know it, Kevin?
No, I don't. I was just reading along with you.
Oh, it is this fabulous book about apparently a single father, because there's no mention of a mother anywhere in the book. A dad who's a Madison Avenue advertising executive who has a young daughter be in kindergarten. And one morning at breakfast, she's complaining how she hates kindergarten and doesn't want to go to school. And he says, yeah, well, I'm not crazy about my job. You think I like taking the train and going into Madison Avenue every day and dealing with all these advertising executives? And so they decide to trade places. Mr. Jones goes to kindergarten and B goes to Madison Avenue. Initially, it's on a trial basis. They both love it and decide that, they should continue this arrangement. And it's such a funny, charming book. So I highly recommend Bee and Mr. Jones by Amy Schwartz.
Bee and Mr. Jones. Okay.
And good night and goodbye. It was a pleasure meeting you all.
You
Nice
too.
to meet you
Take
too.
care.
You too, Peter.
Nice to meet you too. Who's next?
Oh, I've got to choose someone. Christine.
Well, if we're talking about children's books, I happen to have saved these from my childhood. These
Oh,
were
wow.
favorites.
Wow.
This one was called Randolph the Bear Who Said No. And he was rude. And so his fairy godmother said, okay, from now on, all you're going to do is be able to say no. Because he'd say, Randolph, will you make your bed? No. He'd say to his mother, he was being a
Right.
So then the poor guy, he was really upset, and finally she lifted the spell, and he became a polite little bear after that. So I'm not sure why my mother wanted me to have that. The other favorite book was The Tawny Scrawny Lion.
Oh.
Wow. Jeez.
And I just loved that book too. That was a really great book. And other than that, my father used to read to us every night. So we had the complete,
Wonderful.
I don't know how many volumes of the Dr. Dolittle I have. And I also have
Oh, wow.
26 original volumes of The Wizard of Oz.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So these are real collector's items that I do have.
That's great.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And I did see Richard's show, by the way. I should have said that when he was on, but I enjoyed his show very much also. And it was very nice learning about all of you.
Thank you, Christine.
Nice. Yes, indeed. It sure has been.
So I guess I have to sign off now, and I'll be gone. Is that how this works?
I think so.
Yeah, you just have to pick somebody first.
Oh, okay. Okay, Kevin.
Okay. Well, I'm a very diligent student, just like Christine and Peter. If the assignment was Children's Picture Book Day, I got right on it. As I talked a little bit about earlier, I recently wrote this book about Bette Midler, and one of the pleasures of writing that book was revisiting a children's book that she wrote in the 1980s. It's called The Saga of Baby Divine. And it's an illustrated children's book for adults, really, but it can also be read by children. And it reads as a kind of origin story for her onstage persona of the Divine Miss M. I just wanted to read you just a tiny little bit of what I had to say about the book. I don't have the book with me here in Florida. It's up in New York. The title character enters the world with a head of red curls, rouge and false eyelashes, high heels, and a jaunty flowered diaper, uttering just one word: more. Her stage parents are aghast at their new arrival, but Baby Divine has three fairy godmothers who come to her rescue. Resembling a trio of retired harlots, crossed with the three wise men, these down-at-the-heel divas teach Baby Divine to shrug off anxiety and despair and realize her fabulosity through song and laughter. Their lesson plan culminates in a Sacco performance, showcasing Baby Divine's life-affirming song and dance skills that convince her parents how special their new baby really is. The book is written in a series of rhyming four-line stanzas and accompanied by ravishing Technicolor illustrations that recall classic Disney cartoons. The Saga of Baby Divine is a small treasure. Its witty, literate wordplay and showbiz savvy references make it as much fun for adults as for children. Its story of empowerment for anyone who falls outside the mainstream continues to resonate, summed up by the three wise women. And this is a quote from the book. Make sure that your life is a rare entertainment. It doesn't take anything drastic. You needn't be gorgeous or wealthy or smart, just very enthusiastic. So I will leave you with that. It was great meeting everybody.
Thank you. Thank you.
Me too, Kevin.
Barbara.
Oh, thanks. You know, I told Richard when we started that I don't remember a thing about a children's book. Nothing,
okay.
Absolutely nothing. So he said, we'll talk about other things. And for me, I feel the word today was courage. I feel that we all exhibited courage in different ways to go on with our lives. Before I get all choked up here, because I'm a little dry in the desert. The courage to go on with our lives, despite where we're at, our age or physicality or whatever. Just like what happened to you, Robert, it happened to me. I do it every night. I show up every night somewhere else.
For you.
Thank God I have the courage. So thank you, Richard, for asking me. Excuse me, I'm choking.
It's okay.
Robert,
right.
take it.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Thank you, Barbara. Well, children's books, quickly, I did not bring one with me. The only one I can really remember is a book that was about when they were building Disneyland in Southern California. And I remember that because they had to take down the orange groves. So that stuck with my memory. Thank you very much, Richard. I know we're over time. Take care.